Welcome to Association Insights. I'm Colin Gallagher, and we're thrilled to be launching this new weekly series where we're going to be answering all the questions we get around marketing and communications when it comes to the association world. So before launching Onward and Upward, my background was all trade association communications, from the Global Business Travel Association to Biotechnology Industry Organization, and getting my start at the Consumer Technology Association, which was still called Consumer Electronics Association at the time that I worked there. So it's been a little bit. But we really love working with associations. And one of the questions that we get a lot, so we're going to tackle in this first episode, is how can we better use our research? Whether you produce one big research report or 15 reports a year, this is something so many associations ask us about and want to know, how do we get people to read this research? How do we get people to use it? How do we get people to know about it? Oftentimes attention spans just aren't there to read through an in-depth research report. So the big thing is to think about, how can we put this into a type of content that will get people aware of it, and then also potentially drive them to read that whole report if they are interested. But at the very least, they know about it, they know the high level stats, and they can use that research to be better at their jobs and find more value in their membership with your association. So my big recommendation is that with research, you need to get your marketing and comms teams involved early and talking with the researchers, whether they're in-house or if you're working with outside researchers. It's great to know things along the way rather than just be presented with this report at the end and saying you've got a week to get this out, which puts a lot of stress on everyone and usually means you're not going to maximize what you could be doing with it. The second thing is to have a plan and systemize it. So like I said, you might just do one research report a year, but if you're putting out a bit of research, it's especially important to have a clear system of, this is what we're going to do for every research project, and this is how we're going to use it. So think about the content that you can create. Think bite-sized, digestible, sound bites, ways that you can take really great information in small bits that people can quickly take in, understand, and get interested in. So for every research project, you're creating a one-pager, you're creating an infographic, you're creating 3 to 5 social media graphics and posts. And you got to make sure your members know it's there. So, the biggest thing is, if you create this great research and then you never tell anyone about it, what's the point? So use all the tools in your toolbox. Obviously, email marketing is still really key in terms of reaching members. But if you have a blog, you should have a blog post for every research project. If you have a podcast, you should have an episode. If it's a really big research project, think about, can we do a series for the blog or a series for the podcast? Again, always looking at how can we maximize, continue dripping content out and spreading the word about this research. The second main piece, once you've got your members taken care of, is, at the same time, how are we reaching media? You want to raise the profile of your association, raise the profile and attitude towards the profession that you're representing in your association. So that's where a media plan really comes into place. Again, you want your researchers and your comms team working together on this. So making sure your comms team has a real understanding of, what is this research about? What are the key findings? And then having your comms team weigh in on what from this can really resonate with press. So there you go. Again, you have this new part of your system that is every research report. We're creating a press release and press pitches and building a list, and we're getting that out there. The big part of that is really thinking through your targets and being realistic too. So, there might be a really niche topic. You're not going to be pitching that to CNN, but your trade pubs might love it. So think through who should be on that list. Is it trade pubs only? Are you adding in some business pubs? Are you adding in national broadcast? Is it that big and newsworthy? But it really comes down to that newsworthy hook. And so you're developing that press strategy for every piece, but again, from a system of, we're going to identify our targets. We're going to offer an exclusive if it makes sense. Otherwise, the release goes out on this date and time, and that is the initial release of every report. And from there, you tier out all those member comms that we talked about as well. So there's a lot you can do. One thing that is always up for consideration as well and needs to be factored into this plan is, do you have sponsors for your research? And so that can tweak what you do, and you do need to factor that in. If there are sponsors involved, how are they mentioned in media outreach, in social media, in member comms about the report? Do they always need to be tied to it? What are they called? Are they called a sponsor? Are they called a partner? You got to think through these things and what makes sense for you, and you have to have clear guidelines. This is really important too, just for your sponsorship efforts, because if you do one big thing for one sponsor and then another sponsor paying the same amount doesn't get any of that, they're probably going to start wondering, well, why didn't we have that? And why wasn't that in place? And you didn't make this effort here. So having those key guidelines can really help on that front as well. So that's the big thing with research, a great way to maximize it. Make sure you're using it and not just letting it sit on that online resource shelf for no one to see. Get those eyeballs on it and get it out there and show that value for your members. We'll be back next week with another question. Feel free to submit questions if you want, info@onwardupward.com. We're always happy to talk all things marketing and communications in the association world. It's one of our favorite things.